Hi, this is Patricia Stepp with Your Dream Power. And my question for you today is, when we look at people that are really successful and people that aren't successful, what's the difference? Why is it that some people just seem to have one success after another and other people just seem to keep trying and trying and trying and trying and just never seem to have that success? Well, I want you to listen to this story. I read this one time in a book, and I'll just give you the abbreviated version. There was a man who had died, and he was at the pearly gates with St. Peter, and St. Peter was showing him around heaven and showing him the different buildings, but he kept ignoring this huge building that was just so enormous, and he wouldn't tell this man what was in it. And so the guy who died just kept badgering St. Peter, well, what's in that building? And St. Peter would say, oh, you really just don't want to see in there. And he kept saying, but what's in there? What's in there? And finally, he just wore St. Peter down. So he agreed to show him inside the building. Well, when they got in the building, there were just rows and rows of boxes just piled from the floor to the ceiling. And so the guy finally figured out, oh, they were in alphabetical order. So he ran down the aisle to where his name was, and he pulled this box off the shelf and he opened it up and he's looking at everything that's in the box. And he goes, I don't understand. He said, because nothing looked familiar to him. And St. Peter said, well, those are all the gifts that God wanted to give you if only you would have asked. See, that's kind of like a magic box for us. Let's think of it in this way. What if we could take and put a list of everything that we want and put it in a box, and then like magic, we were able to just pull those things out as we accomplish them? Well, in a sense, we really can do that. What we have to learn to do, though, is to shift our consciousness. And we have to be able to be on a higher level of consciousness than where we currently are. Now, when I talk about consciousness, I'm really talking about frequency. You see, everything in the universe vibrates, and it vibrates very fast. And even though things look solid, like the walls and the desk and everything, around you maybe looks like it's solid, it's really moving very quickly. We just can't see it with the human eye. But if we had the right equipment, we'd be able to see that it's vibrating. And you probably remember learning that in science class with the electrons moving around and so on. Anyway, we also are vibrating, and thoughts vibrate. So when we think about thoughts vibrating, that's where we get into what Wallace D. Wattles talks about in his book, The Science of Getting Rich, in which he talks about this thinking substance. And it says here, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. So it penetrates through everything. It's around us constantly. It's omnipresent. He goes on to say, a thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. So all we have to do is to put our thought into the substance, and then we will get what is imaged by those thoughts. It says, man can form things in this thought, and by impressing his thought upon the formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. So as long as we have a thought and we put it in a substance, we can actually form that and then see it in our reality. Now, the problem is that, as he says later, you see that to think what you want instead of what you see is to think truth. So he says here, to think what you want to think is to think truth, regardless of appearances. So we think what we want, we know what our goal is, but we have to think that regardless of what we're seeing in front of us, and that's very difficult. And he says here, there is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when truth is contrary to appearances. So to think what you really want, the truth, instead of what you're seeing in front of you through your senses, is the most difficult work and the hardest work that there is. He says, every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. And this can only be prevented by holding the thought of the truth. So every appearance in the visible world, what you see in front of you, produces a corresponding thought in your mind. So you see something in front of you, you see the empty bank account, or you see the lack or the limitation in front of you because it's so visible. And so then we have this corresponding thought in our mind. And what he's saying is here, the only way then that can be prevented is by holding the thought of the truth, holding the thought of what it is that you want. Okay? So that's what's very difficult. But when you get that idea in your mind and you can hold it there, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when. And what we do know is that there's a gestation period for everything. And in order to get that, we often have to shift our awareness of who we are. So let me shift here, as we're shifting, to Neville Goddard, who explains this consciousness shift. He says, rising from one conscious level of consciousness to another is only the ascension that you will ever experience. Okay, so when we have a goal that's bigger than us, we have to raise to a different level of consciousness. And the only way we do that is by ascending. We're only ascending, we're going up. And what's crucial here is it says, no man can lift you to the level you desire. Only you can do that. You can do that with your inside powers. You can lift yourself to that higher level. And you have to do that. You see, you have to become somebody different if you're going to produce a different result. So Wallasey Walls is telling us how we can have that new desire, that new truth. But in order to do that, we have to be able to shift our consciousness. We have to be able to move to a new level. So Goddard goes on here and says that you rise to a higher level of consciousness by taking your attention away from your present limitations and placing it upon that which you desire to be. So that's how we go from one place to another. We have to take the attention away from our current situation, and we have to move it to a higher level of consciousness. And listen to this. It says, do not attempt this in daydreaming or wishful thinking, but in a positive manner. Claim yourself to be that thing that you desire. You have to claim it. You have to say, this is who I am. This is what I want. And he says, I am, that is the key word. I am financially independent. I am successful. I am the CEO of a company. I am attracting clients to me all the time. So you have to decide who your I am is, or multiple I ams. It says, all that is asked of you is to accept your desire. If you dare claim it, you will express it. So he says, all that is required is that you let those qualities into the expression and claim the I am. Claim yourself to be that which you desire to be, and that you shall be. Expressions follow impressions. They do not precede them. Expressions follow impressions. You've already impressed that idea into that formless substance. Now you're going to express it by claiming it and deciding that's what you're going to be. Proof that you are will follow the claim that you are. It will not precede it. So we cannot expect something to happen until we decide to claim it. So questions, please reach out to me. I'd love to have a chat with you, see how I can help you to claim what you most desire, and then get you on a path towards achievement. So all the information's in below, how you can book a strategy session with me, and we'll map out a plan for you so that you can have what it is that you want. This is Patricia Step with your Dream Power. Be the magic in your dreams.